Welcome to the second part on how to paint Mithrandir or Gandalf the Grey for Lord of the Rings. Now I'm going to continue with the washes. I'm going to use Ogryn flesh for the skin of Gandalf. This is the same as the previous steps, just applying it to the areas, just allowing it to fill the recesses. And then I'm going to use Asurmen blue to use on the hat and scarf. This is going to tint very bluish the hat. The equivalent for this paint would be Drakenhoff Nightshade, and for Ogryn flesh would be I think it's Reikland Fleshshade. Next I'm going to use Mechanicus standard gray again once the wash is all dried, and I'm going to clean up the robe just as a highlight for the first color, and trying to leave the recesses alone and just using it on the most raised parts. This is covering most of the area, just leaving the shadows where they're supposed to be, and clean up the places where the robe is supposed to be more bright. Here I used a mix of glaze medium, water, and paint. About 1:1 to 1, maybe a little bit more paint. This is just for allowing it to make a good transition and don't leave too obvious marks of painting change in between the grays. You can find your own mixture with which you find yourself more comfortable, but that's the way I do it. Now I'm going to use the same with Dawnstone. That's what I'm doing right now, and applying a second highlight. This is again taking most of the area, but leaving about half of the area that is covered by the Mechanicus standard gray, or maybe a little less. It all depends on you. And here you can see me applying a second coat, just because the tutorial doesn't show that I'm doing multiple coats, but I just wanted to let you know that if the paint doesn't cover very well, you can go ahead and give it a second coat. Of course you could skip over giving second coats and all of that if you just use paint not straight from the pot, because that's kind of a bad idea if you want to have a clean miniature. But if you just dilute it with a little bit of water, you can rush through the steps with maybe a bit less quality, but a good looking miniature nonetheless. Once that I'm happy with the highlights, I'm going to use Administratum gray, and this is only an edge highlight to the edges of the robe. As you can see, you have a little bit like a strip on the lower part of the robe there, and here on where it opens on his legs, and all the places where you see like really sharp edges, you can highlight with this color as an edge highlight, not like a regular highlight. The boots and the inner part of the robe, I'm just painting it the same gray. I'm not changing colors there. Now that that's done, I'm going to start highlighting with Cadian Fleshtone to highlight the skin of Gandalf. Now I'm using a very fine brush for this. I think this is my 000 brush. You don't need to go that small, but I'm comfortable when painting places so tiny like this one. So I'm just applying it to most of the area, leaving just the very recesses on the color of the shade and the Bugman's glow. So this is how it looks after the first coat. Then comes Kislev flesh. I'm going to give it a second highlight, the same as the first one, but in a little bit less area. Usually, I've seen that most people stop here when highlighting flesh, and it's okay if you like it. For me, for my taste, it looks, in my opinion, it looks kind of yellow, and I don't like it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a third highlight, which is Screaming Skull. This just use it on the very most exposed parts and sharpest edges if you find any. This is gonna make Gandalf look a lot less yellow. I think it looks more natural. Then with Baneblade brown, I'm going to highlight the gloves or whatever this is. As you can see, it's not really a hard step. Again, leaving the recesses on the previous color. That's what we're doing when we are applying highlights. And that's the only highlight that I'm going to give that part. I'm not paying it that much attention. Then I'm going to go back with Russ Gray and going to highlight the hat. Now I thin it down with again glaze medium and water, but not so much, just enough so that it makes a transition, and the color is not very good covering over the this previous color, but I did it on different layers, so there's no problem. So I had to give it a second layer, and then I'm going to use Gorthor brown. This is to highlight the staff, Gandalf's staff. Just use the edge of the brush on the sharpest edges there. You should have no problem. And for the most plain parts on the staff, try to be more random when you're highlighting. Just leaving some parts here and there on the previous color, like emulating the way that wood would look, like leaving little stripes of black here and there. Don't just highlight everything. You just highlight the edges, and the other parts be a little more artistic if you can. Now I'm going to use again the Administratum Grey, and I'm going to start highlighting the beard. Another way to do this would be using dry brush, but I choose to use my detail brush to highlight each individual hair like so, because that's more precise and clean, as opposed to as just dry brushing. Dry brushing is a lot more quick, and it gives a good effect, but for my taste I would do this instead. Then I'm going to use Ulthuan Grey. This I'm going to use to highlight again the same parts, but in a less area, and like extreme highlighting the places that catch the most light, to make it just stand out a little more. Now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead with Fenrissian Grey, and this I'm going to use it to edge highlight the hat and the scarf. Also, I forgot to mention, when I was highlighting the hat earlier, I also highlighted the scarf. Sorry if I didn't mention it, but I did. and then on the top of the hat I'm still giving it a little highlight like you saw there, and around the scarf on the sharpest edges and the folds of the scarf. Next I'm going to use Mornfang Brown, and I'm going to use it on the leather parts. This is niche highlight for these parts, as you can see here, and it's not that hard. It takes a bit of time. Sorry about the fingers there. Sorry if you're not able to see, but that's an error of my part, I'm sorry. But hopefully you'll see a little bit. Now that that's done, I'm going to use Ironbreaker, and I'm going to highlight the parts that are silver. Again, and as the other steps, it's very easy, just hit the places where most light would hit, and leaving the recesses alone. For this kind of detail work, I like to use my detail brush, or zero brush, or smaller if you want. Now this is how the miniature looks at the end, with all of the steps that we made, and I have to say I'm really happy with it. It looks very good for a tabletop standard in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to paint all of the company and all of my set on this kind of a standard, if not better. If you would like to see the tutorials for the other company members for the Hobbit, please leave a comment below and like this video. If I get good feedback, I will probably do some more tutorials, and maybe not only the Hobbit. I would like actually to have the Lord of the Rings Fellowship and some of the Nazgul models. I would like to have a lot of Lord of the Rings miniatures. I like them very much. So please leave your feedback, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you really liked this video, and I'll see you on the next.